All right, so this is demonstration of data entry for W-2. I'm going to enter two W-2s, one for Walter Smith, one for Mary Smith, and I'm going to input some tip data on one of those returns so you can see how tip data is reported. So I've logged into TaxSlayer. I'm here at the client search. I could start a new return or search for client. I pre-populated a return for Mary and her husband Walter, I believe. Yes. And I'm going to select that return. So again, their social security numbers, their address and so forth, phone number, that has all been entered already. In here, you can see the 1040. Something interesting, I have never noticed this before. It's showing their ages on here, which would have been helpful in the past. Normally, I'm looking for, are these people over 65 or not? Or are these younger people above 24 or 17 or under, that kind of thing. And nice seeing the ages. Don't know, though, what that's based on. If that's based on age as of today, or is it based on age on the 31st of December? Need to find out about that. So we want to enter W-2s are federal income. We can come up here to the federal section over here on the left and say we're entering the federal part of the return. In here, I could go up to the form finder. I apologize, it's very light on my screen. I have no idea why that box is, but here it pops up and says go to Form W-2 for wages, or go to Form W-2G for gambling. I only keyed in W-2, so it gave me both. I want the one for wages. I could click that, and it would go straight into the entry form. I'm going to cancel that, though, because I want to show you the normal way. I open up the federal section, income opens up. W-2 is right at the top. As said before, you can click on the button to open it. You can click anywhere inside here. I'm going to do that. W-2 is opened up. Again, we'll do the one for Mary Smith. Mary Smith is the taxpayer in this return. Her husband is the spouse. It's a standard W-2. There's no box indicating it's a corrected W-2 or anything else. So this is a standard W-2. It's Mary Smith's. Now we need to put in the employer identification number. Note the red star or asterisk next to that. It says that field must be entered. If you do not enter a field or multiple fields with those stars, the TaxSlayer will not allow you to save that document. So we're going to put in that number, and that number is 25623 4567. And when I click out of that box, it populates the name of the employer and the employer's address. Now, by the way, EINs are registered through the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so if you're a company, to get an identifier, you must go and register with them and get your number. Wages and tips. We're going to enter wages and tips. Now I'm going to put this in, and it only has zeros, it just so happens, on this W-2, but I'm going to key in the cents anyway to show you what happens. It's going to round the dollars up or down depending upon if they're 50 cents or more, it'll round up. If it's 49 cents or less, it'll round down. But I want to show you what happens when we leave here, because it doesn't make any difference what you put in that. It's going to do that for you when you save this form. So it's $1,220 in federal tax. The Social Security tax withheld is accurate. The Medicare withheld is accurate. It's a calculation they do based on how much employer pays half of each of these. The employee pays half of each of these. The total is 15.3% for Medicare and Social Security tax. So everything's right here. By the way, sometimes these will be wrong. You won't match what's in the W-2. If what's in the Social Security tax withheld box is incorrect, use what's on the W-2 and correct it. The reason is what's on the W-2 is what's being reported to the IRS. So that's That's the gospel. That's what you want to put in. All right, we're going to roll down. There's nothing in any other boxes until we get to the state section. So in the state section, it's Massachusetts. We want to find Massachusetts, select it. Click in the box for the state EIN. It populates it for you. The wages have been brought in, and she paid $614. I'll just, for the heck of it, put the cents in and say, we're done. No other fields to enter from the W-2. Now you can say, continue, and it will save. It's really a save key. It will save and exit this W-2. And so that's the way we should do it, right? It's all done? No. You should always go back. My recommendation, very simply, you can go back up and check and just look at those numbers and make sure very quickly this matches this, this matches this, this matches this. Yeah, that $1,228 in federal tax withheld. That's right. Now you know it's right. You don't want to make a mistake here, leave, and then find out that it was wrong later on. It could cause the taxpayer some problems. Goodness knows we don't need to cause any problems to the taxpayer. So I'm going to say continue. I could have said save and enter another to go to the husband's W-2 and enter that, but I want to show you what happens with the cents. By the way, if I go up here and make a mistake and click on the delete, it's not going to delete it. It's going to allow you the option of, did you really want to do this? I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to cancel. Here's the edit button. It's back in, and you'll notice that something has happened. If there were real cents in there, it would have rounded up or rounded down. It took those off. So even though you're inputting those decimal points, the cents, TaxSlayer is going to strip those out when you're done with your form, and it does that consistently for all the forms. So there you have it. Now I haven't changed anything, and so I'm going to save it and show you. Save and enter another. So now we're going to enter Walter Smith's, bear with me, W-2. It's a standard W-2. It's Walter Smith's. We go to the EIN. Notice I've keyed in values here before. There's a drop down. Those are commonly entered numbers in those fields. So if I want to, once I've populated enough of these, this 25, his first two numbers are 25. And if I start here, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, well, look, there it is. And so if there is a drop down, don't have to key. You can just pull that in, and there you go. Jefferson County School District. We're going to go put in wages and tips. He had $21,010.27. It's going to round down to 10, so we're just going to leave that alone. Again, wages, Social Security, Medicare, they match. These are correct. Oh, wait a minute. On the W-2 here, it says 64. So I'll put that in, even though it's cents, I'll put it in anyway, so that I know I match the W-2. Federal tax withheld, it's $3,300. So finish that section, and now we're going to go down and see what else is on the W-2. In box 12 is a code, that DD code we've seen before. It's 4734. 34.53. I'll put in that. Okay, so that's been entered. He had no state tax withheld, so nothing shows up in the state information. So now we're finished. We could go and save. We could leave here because I always input things correctly. So I'm going to go back up and check, and that's right. Uh-oh, that's not right. This field on the W-2 is $2,200. I'm off by $1,100. That would have said that he had $1,100 more withheld. Had this return gone in with that extra $1,100 that he claimed he paid in tax, that would have probably resulted in a problem down the road for the taxpayer. So we want to do, because the IRS has all of these forms and all the numbers, we want to key in the right number, which was 2,200. Okay, we're finished with that. I could save it, but I want to show you one other thing. tips. So Social Security tips. We're going to just put in $1,000 Social Security tips. We've discussed this. These tips are already included in Medicare wages, Social Security wages, and the end wages here in box 1. So Social Security tax has been withheld. Medicare tax has been withheld from that $1,000 or against that $1,000. Allocated tips over here. I'm going to put in $1,000 for allocated tips. Allocated tips, that $1,000 has not been reported and really not been taxed. It's not part of the tax. No Social Security tax has been withheld, no Medicare tax. So that will have to be paid out of that $1,000. I'm going to say unreported tips, above $20, below $20. By the way, it's below 20, so everything else is 20 or above. So I'm going to say there was 800 in total unreported tips. But let's say that 150 of those were under $20. So there's the 800 total. That's above and below. Well, how do we indicate that 150 of that was below $20 per month? Not here. You leave the 800. Everything else is correct. We can say continue to save. Note now that it will state the AGI based on the incomes reported for the two W-2s. As of now, nothing's final. Everything's in the green. The federal refund shows us $22.92. The state, we haven't done anything with the state yet, and it's showing a refund, but that doesn't mean anything. Again, to collapse the menu so the taxpayer who may be sitting there near you doesn't get overly concerned, you can collapse that so they can't see that until the end when you have the actual numbers. So I want to show you where you put that other $150 in unreported tips under $20. It goes into, in the federal section, it goes into other taxes. Other taxes, it shows right here, tax on unreported tip income. I'm going to select that. And then in here it says, who does it belong to? Well, we put it in a Walter Smith's W-2. And it says, here's the total, $2,800. Here's what reported on W-2. Remember that? Box 7, 1,000. Cash and tips you received but did not report because the total was less than 20 in a calendar month. I said it was $150. That's where it goes. I work for the federal government. I never got any tips, by the way. So forget that box. $150. We're done. We now say continue. We can now say continue, get out of here. And now the tip income has been reported. So what I want to show you is where and what the result of that is. So I like to go to summary print, go to print, view print return. As Vern has mentioned, when it comes up and says print your return, it's not really printing your return. It's generating a PDF file that you could print if you wanted to at that point, at this point, and but nothing's being printed. So right up front, this shows that a Form 1040 has been generated, a Form 1040 Schedule 2 for additional taxes, a Form the W-2s that we put in, 2 of them, a Form 4137, tax on tips. We'll look at that in a second. The 8879 e-file signature, that is what the taxpayers, if it's a couple, they both must sign that. If they don't sign that form, we do not file for them. So again, they both must sign it. So I'm going to scroll down and look at, if I can find it, there's the 8879, there's the 1040. Schedule 2. Schedule 2 shows additional taxes. Note there's $126 here, ultimately here in 7, $126 of additional tax. Where'd that come from? Well, if we can find it, it came from here. This is the Form 4137 I mentioned in the briefing, in the presentation. And it shows the total amount of tips was $2,800. There it is in column C. It shows that 1,000 of that were tips reported to your employer. So you take the 2,800, take the 1,000 away, it says there's 1,800 that weren't reported. Of that, it says on line 5, how much of this was less than $20 in a calendar month? What's the amount? Remember that $150, there it is. They subtract the 150 from the 1,800, small change, I guess, and it's 1,650. They run a calculations against the maximum amount of earnings that or income that would be that's subject to Social Security withholding. They calculate it out. It says in this line 10, that's what you're paying on, $1,650. It works out to, line 11 is, that's the Social Security tax that you now, or Mr. Smith now owes, $102 and $24 in Medicare tax for a total of $126. That $126 we saw back on Schedule 2, and then all builds into the return. So there you have it. That is W-2 entry with both the tip reporting and nothing else to show here. So we'll return back now to the presentation.